How are you today?
Pretty good. It's Friday. I mean, I've got a bit of a cold, as you can hear, which obviously being a singer is the best thing in the world. But other than that, pretty good to be honest. Just looking forward to the weekend now.
Timing, yeah,
Mm,
wonderful timing for illness. But it is, it's just weather in it. 1 minute it's kind of mild, and I don't know where you are, but right now it is absolutely teeming it down, and where I am,
yeah, the same,
yeah,
same here. Lovely
wonderful,
Buckinghamshire.
wonderful. London, yes. Busy week. What's been going on in regards to like specifically the band stuff that's been keeping you busy this week? Is there anything specific that you've been kind of working on? I mean, obviously we had a new single release. That was quite a big deal.
Yeah, to be honest, like we've just kind of been focusing on that and trying to like just get ready for the album coming out next month. Like literally as of 2 days ago, these arrived in my
Oh, we've
hands.
got him.
So
Look at that.
which is very cool. I think I haven't actually taken it out. I think this is the red one. We have red and a blue one, which is very cool. Which is making it feel real now. And I think that we've been just sort of like, trying to take it in, trying to come up with some plans and trying to come up with some fun ideas, what we can do around the album and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, we are so close to the point of release that it could be go one or two ways right now. It's the calm before the storm kind of thing, or
Yeah.
like full on wind slamming into your sails because you've got somewhat still to do at this stage. Where are we at though? How are you feeling as a group? Do you feel kind of relaxed and ready for this, or is it just so much going on?
I think, do you know what? I don't think you can ever fully relax. It's so weird. I feel like being in a band and releasing music, it's such a different experience like being on the outside because
Hmm.
this album for us is 2 years old already. Do you know what I mean? Like so like for us we're like, oh my God, we're nearly at the end, but actually it's not even started yet. So and it's funny because obviously we've been through this twice before, so we kind of know the just a little bit. I think weirdly the second album was harder with that. I feel like this time was a bit because the first album's like really exciting, you don't know what to
Yeah.
expect, and then second time you're kind of like, oh, it kind of softens it, and this time you're like, right, we need to raise it. So it's all a bit all over the place, but yeah, I'm like it's chaotic, but good chaotic in some ways, and we've had like we've got a new label, new management, so it's just learning how to work with new people, and it's all been great. Like there's nothing bad to say. It's just lots of different stuff, but I think we're overall feeling pretty good. People seem to be pretty much every single we release, people are like, wow, you've won up the last one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, this is good. This is good news.
I'm glad you're feeling that then, because there is a lot of moving parts and there is a lot going on. As you mentioned, new label, new management, all of that. Of course, we are talking about Did You Ask to Be Set Free? April 10th is the official
Hmm.
release date. So, as of time recording, we're almost at the month period. Compare the build period of this record to Ultraviolet, especially as obviously now you're working with Century Media. Overall, this build period, would you say it's been structured well? You feel like it's been smooth.
Mm. I think I'll be honest and say that this has probably been the hardest record for multitudes of reasons to create.
Mm,
Obviously, so our drummer passed away a year and a half ago. Who was obviously also my partner. And it obviously created a lot of like weird sort of like where do we go? Like what do we do? Is this now the purpose? Like,
mm,
I will be open and I've said this before, is that we had a discussion of can we do this anymore? Like there was an open discussion when we all got together at one point and went, is this the end of this? Is
mm.
this kind of just whatever it's supposed to, that was what it was supposed to be. And I think we all kind of went away and thought about it and we were like, no, we've still got more to say. And I think that like none of us wanted to stop. None of us felt like and there were songs on the album that Jamie had been part of and stuff like that. So we felt like we owed it to ourselves and we owed it to him. And we owed it to the whole thing and everything we've been through. Like, from the first album say, to Ultraviolet to now, to be like, we can't, we don't feel like we're done yet. And I think
Mm,
that that's the kind of main sensation, and through grief and all that kind of stuff, that tends to be like the thing to follow is like what feels right for you, because I know that
mm.
some people might not have felt happy carrying on, some people might have, and it's all just about doing the right thing. So obviously compared to UV it was like a very very different experience, but UV was far more like chaotic in other ways, that we had so much touring going on.
Yeah.
We actually didn't get a lot of time to focus on other stuff outside of touring, like doing release show or
Mm,
like a proper like interactive fan experiences and just slightly different ways of doing things, you know, because we were just like, right, we're coming straight out of this tour into the next one, onto the next one, which is
Yeah.
obviously great. Whereas now we're actually in a point where we're not actually doing anything till Download Festival now.
Mm.
So we've actually got some time, and that's why we're like kind of we had a management meeting yesterday coming up with some ideas because we want to make this like we want to make this fun and engaging for everybody. So it's a good relief for everybody involved.
Was it a conscious choice to kind of do it this way, though, to sit back and say, okay, we're not gonna play too much, we're gonna try and approach this release from a different perspective?
I think yes and no. I think because there was like, you know, and I think you have to be honest and admit the touring circuits are getting harder and harder to get on,
Mm.
especially with support, you know, support slots and things are just becoming harder and harder to do to kind of get into those spaces sometimes. You know, but equally there was headline stuff discussed, you know, should we do a big headline tour around the album? And we were kind of like, nah, like it just, you know, we felt like it was just better to kind of like give this album the time it needs, like like I said, to genuinely just focus on it around the time of release. And then we've got festival seasons that we could, and we got, you know, a couple of bits coming from that as well. And then we've got the Future Palace tour in November, and then obviously we're
Yeah.
making plans for 27. So I think 27 is going to be the go, go, go year. This year is the let's just try and enjoy what we've created.
I think you've earned that. I think you deserve that. As you say, it's not your first rodeo, and considering what you did with Ultraviolet, I mean, really, really insane amount of touring. And so let's not
Yeah.
pretend like you haven't got dates. Like so you already mentioned, you've got the festival stuff coming up, and then you've got that big tour at the end of the year. And I'm sure if opportunities came your way, you wouldn't necessarily say no.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. It's like it's realistic of like, yeah, you know, we could pursue it more, but we were kind of like, is our energy better, you know, better off just going into be making this what we want it to be?
Are you feeling the weight of expectation? When I use words like, say, much anticipated, it's not designed to be hyperbole. The desire for this new album is becoming a little bit rabid amongst listeners. You
Hmm.
said yourself, singles, the comments, the response is simply phenomenal. So yeah, are you kind of feeling that weight of expectation?
100%. I think, like I said, like your first album is you kind of, there's genuinely people go on about the first album being hard. I'm like, no, you ain't got like your first album is you can do anything and mess it up because there's nothing to benchmark it against. Whereas when you do your second, arguably your second album is more terrifying because you're like, right, the only thing I can compare it to is that one. And then this time round, we're kind of like, well, weirdly, I feel like the third album, I kind of feel better about it than I did about UV because I'm like, well, we've learned so much from both experiences, both negative and positive, and we're taking it forward. But yeah, the weight of expectation, we're on a bigger label with bigger expectations, and I think fans see that as well. In the industry in general, the eyes are all on us. Like, you know, a third album is a hard album to get through to.
Mm,
And you know you know we've kind of been this band that have been kind of around and people know us, and we, you know,
yeah.
it's good that we've got a good spread of music that gets streamed between our albums. You know, we're not just like a band that people listen to one of the albums and not the other one, which is
Mm.
really, really good. I'm really pleased about that, but now I'm like, well, that better happen this time as well. Otherwise we're in trouble.
No, I think you'll be okay. Just simply based off the response to the singles, it's been something that I've been paying attention to as well, and each one has resonated with people in wildly different ways. It's quite interesting as well. I think you're going to get a lot of that over the album. What people take from it from a personal perspective is going to be really interesting to see. But when you get so much comments and so much social media attention, it can be almost overwhelming to a certain degree, I imagine. Are you able to distance yourself from paying attention to all that stuff, the comments, numbers, etc., not obsessing over it?
Do you know what? It's one thing we've always just been so unfazed about, like almost to the point where we're like, Why do people get wound up by comments?" Like,
Mm.
maybe it'd be different if like you were being like hounded. I mean, and I suppose that I've got that privilege that we haven't had been hounded in any way. Yeah, we've the only video I can say that has had the most like I don't want to say hate comments because they're not, they're just
Mm.
people saying what they think or whatever, was hiding from myself because it for some reason algorithmically on YouTube just hit something and it got loads of it like comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And but I don't like on a personal level, I literally don't care. Like I don't seek it, which I think helps. But also I'm like, cool, you don't like my band, I don't care. Like it's maybe if somebody was being like, forcefully like quite cruel across social medias, maybe if it felt like that, but at that point, that's not somebody going, I don't like your band. That's somebody making a vendetta against like you for whatever
Yeah.
reason. So we've never really, like honestly, I am not even joking. Adam is desperate for a scathing album review. Because his reason was, you can't be a real band until you've had a scathing album review. And I was like, do you know what? You're like because how many times did you hear like Slipknot in their early days getting absolutely critically
Yeah.
panned? Sleep Token, people are panning them, and yet they're the biggest growing band in the world. And I kind of get his point because he's like, when will somebody say we're shit? So
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, but also again, like we're internally very positive about what we create. So I think that it just does not break through to us at all, really.
Ah, it's such a shame, isn't it? Yeah, I do understand the desire for potentially something critical.
He's
But
also
it's
very antagonistic, our Adam. So I think he likes the idea of just somebody like coming at him.
okay. Well, you live in hope, eh? Who knows? The reviews are not quite there for this album yet, so we shall see.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I said to him the other night, I was like, hold off, you don't know yet.
It must be, you must, have you had any moments where you've struggled to stay grounded? And what I mean by that is because you have had quite a startling rise, much deserved and far from peaked, I think, but notably epic. As you say, you're now on your third album, Century Media, and the attention is growing and growing and growing. How do you stay grounded as a group?
Do you know what? It's really weird because like obviously when you're living it, like when I'm being me, like I don't notice like things that might change about myself or like, it's really hard to notice those things because they do happen so well because I think this is part of it is that like well, I don't feel like we've changed that much and that
Hmm.
drastically as people because it's happened so slowly. I think that a lot of the time when bands blow up and blah blah blah, people and actually I don't like to necessarily attack some people for it, but like some people get very guarded and very like, I don't want to say arrogant, but just kind of like go into themselves because it's like a defense mechanism, I think,
Hmm.
sometimes to the way that, like you're suddenly thrust into this like people are interested in your life 24/7, commenting on your stuff after you to know everything about you. And I think that I can relate to that in some ways is I've definitely become more reserved online and I've tried to like, I'm more sort of like just sort of like I'm like, do you know what? Like stuff about my private life that I used to share, like I'm just not really interested in sharing. And I know that not that people are disappointed by that, but I think it's definitely broken down like a bit of a some people are like, oh, we'd love to know like what Charlie does like day to day. And I'm like, I don't really
Yeah.
want you to know that. And that's not but the thing is, I just say that, and I know that sometimes like that might come across in the wrong way, but I think that I don't mean it in that way. It's more just like when I'm at home, I'm Charlie. I'm just
Hmm.
Charlie. I'm not Charlie from Everything Unfolds. I'm Charlie. I'm just playing my video games, watching my films, just doing my thing. Um, but we do kind of, what me and George specifically do this thing a lot of the time, like where we kind of like take like we do it's not meditation because we don't do that, but like we kind of like close our eyes and we're like remember when we were back in Adam's parents' front room when we were like teenagers and we used to talk about like touring with Enter Shikari, playing Wembley Arena, because that's what you do when you're a teenager. You talk about like, wow, wouldn't it be so cool if we did a
Yeah.
tour and we took, and you have to do that. You have to like go back and put yourself back there and then look at yourself now and go, would I be proud of myself now? And the answer is 1,000 times yes because
Hmm.
now all you look at is what we haven't got or what somebody else is getting or whatever and you're like Jesus Christ, I would have given anything to even get half of what I had when I was like 15 years old. So
Hmm.
it's you've got to look at it from that perspective. But and what I do a lot of and I actually sometimes will look at like old photos of myself when I was like again like 15, 16, and I will like look at myself in the photo and go, you are doing it. You're doing the thing that you wanted to. I'm stood there in my like Enter Shikari t-shirt or my Chemical Romance or whatever it is t-shirt, like smiling and playing with my first band and whatever. And I'm thinking, you've done that, and it's like that's the things that keep me grounded
Hmm.
specifically is like reflecting on how far we've actually come as a group. And before Wembley, I remember there's actually a video of it, because our videographer was filming it. Adam just goes, we're playing Wembley. And we were literally about to like walk onto the stage. And we all, and I think it does, it takes you out of the moment. It's taking yourselves out of the moment, because that's another thing as well, is that people always said to me, how was it on stage at Wembley? I'm like, I'd love to tell you, because I don't know.
Right.
Because it's so numbing sometimes when you're in it, because you're so, especially when you've got in-ear monitors in, it's like when you have your headphones in on the tube, you ain't got a clue what's going on around you. When
Hmm.
they're noise cancelling, you're just in your own world, and it's very much like that. You can see everything, but sometimes there'll be like a split second where like you do the thing where you reflect, and I try and do it more and more, and I go, holy shit, this is where I am. And the moment I did at Wembley was I looked up into the top right hand corner of the arena and was like, that's where I sat to watch My Chemical Romance, who are my favorite band. And I
Yeah.
think that was just a real split second of, I looked down at the floor and went, holy fuck, like I'm here. I'm here on the stage performing with my band. And it goes very quickly, but it's a real good way of just being proud of yourself, which I think
Hmm.
is a good thing.
It is a good thing because, it's trying to stay grounded as much as possible. You should never underplay your achievements and your success and what you've accomplished and managed to get there. But it is a difficult balance, particularly when on social media, as you say, everybody not only wants you to peel back the curtain on your life, but is effectively praising you constantly to the high heavens. You could easily get lost in that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's, it goes hand in hand with like not checking the bad comments in a way, like like not checking the good, just not checking the comments in general, just
Yeah.
living it and experience it just as you. Don't yeah, like I said, it's nice that people comment and say that they love the singles and all that, but in a way I kind of don't like the outside influence in some ways. It's nice to kind of just be authentic as you can about it, really.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to say some nice things now because did you ask to be set free? I've heard this. This has been my listening for the last couple of days once this interview was arranged for me. And I think I'll
Hmm.
stop actually be unpacking it for weeks and months to come because this feels very much you, a more emotionally connected you, a rawer you, and clearly an evolved you as well. But as everything unfolds album for the times we live in almost to a degree. And I have to ask them really, it's go back to vision really. When you first set out on the path to make this album, do you think you had a clear vision for what you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I think maybe sonically not so much, which is funny being a band, but like visually, I knew what I wanted it to look like. I know what I wanted it to kind of like portray creative,
Mm,
like in that aspect, because I did a photography degree. I'm very visual focused. So a lot of my music and writing and a lot of the stuff is 50-50 visual and 50-50, like sorry, 50% visual, 50% audio. So like I
yeah.
see as I create. So I kind of like when the first demo started coming through, I was like, yeah, I know what it's gonna look like. Like that, the artwork image was a image that I actually concocted in my head in my degree. So it
Mm,
was, but again, it was just kind of like I never really knew what its intended purpose was, and then this all kind of came together in like one nice little package. But in terms of like sonically, it was definitely something I'll be honest, I would have loved to do a full concept record, but the
mm,
way we write as a group doesn't really allow for it, because when you write something like a concept record you have to write it like from beginning to end, like in a linear structure, because otherwise it
mm,
just doesn't make sense. And we don't write like that. We just sort of write when we feel like it. We write whatever kind of tune, like Adam will be like, right, let's write a banger tune, let's write a soppy tune, let's like, it's free flowing, which really works for us. So I was like, right, well, how can I try and implement like an overarching story in the thing, which is what I try and do, is kind of like the best of both worlds. And yeah, like I just kind of had this idea of like, I'm a big gamer, I'm a big like film buff. And I love those like the worlds of like specifically like Blade Runner,
mhm,
and places like I just feel like they're really interesting spaces and like allegories for like things about the like human nature and the human condition, about like what makes us human, like why do the replicants in the universe get treated differently when they are in every single way the same as us, they're just created and not born. And
mm,
it ethically, and I just, there was lots of things about that I was kind of like, that were kind of quite reflective of just like, yeah, why do we treat people differently, like for
yeah.
whatever reason. And then the kind of free flowed from that into just this whole overarching thing of like management of terror management is a theory, is like a human condition thing, and it's
Mm,
like yeah, so I kind of focused on Blade Runner for that aspect, and then Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was what the Gasoline video is inspired by, and the song as well is like about like intentional like or like fated things, and like immortality is another, like vampires were created in story for like it's like a kind of like counter to the fear of death and
Mm.
stuff like that. And that was what religion was created for as well. Like, well, obviously, like I believe that.
Yep.
But but like, you know, it's a form of managing our internal human instincts of fear of dying. Um and there's also another story, another film kind of thing that which isn't out yet, but it will kind of complete the kind of circle. But that one's kind of a lot about like sacrifice and sacrificing yourself for a better purpose and all that kind of stuff. And but what I tried to do is bring together these film universes that I really liked and visually used them to inspire the kind of stuff, and then took the concepts behind the movies and films and whatever to like build off lyrically.
Mm. Because of course,
Sorry,
even
I
with
know there's a
that,
lot there. I'm always like blah 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 blah, and everyone's like, okay.
it makes for an easy chat because you. But yeah, I mean, on the lyrical content, because of course, this still has such a degree of personal potency as
Mhm.
well throughout. You're covering a wide-ranging subjects across the album as well. Did you did you find it flowed when it came to lyric writing? Did you find that it flowed quite naturally this time, and that you were at a more comfortable stage doing so than you've ever been before?
Yeah, like so. I think with lyrically, I've never really, I wouldn't say like struggled, but definitely
Mm,
like I wanted to kind of switch up like maybe the way I did things. So I actually read a book called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, who's the producer.
mm,
And it's really good because it's actually it isn't just about music. You can use it to frame it into pretty much any kind of like way of your life. It's kind of like a self-help book basically, but it really is very much kind of like using music as the kind of vessel to tell the story. And I really like this idea of like subconscious writing. So what I would do was like do activities, hoovering. I wouldn't say it's an activity, but it's a thing you do. Hoovering or like cooking or driving, and I would bang on like demos and I would just like sing like the song already exists. And do you know how many times something came out that was so innate? And I think that was the point that Rick Rubin's trying to make, is that like it's so authentic and innate because it's just happening. It's just happening.
mm.
You're not thinking about it. It's just purely you. And the chorus for Gasoline literally came to me when I was cutting a cheese toastie in my kitchen.
Okay.
And I remember I was just stood there. I was like, I remember it so vividly because I didn't believe I'd done it. Like, I didn't believe that I'd written it. So I sort of kept going back and I was like, no, that's a song that already exists. Like, I've made, I'm copying somebody. And I
Mm,
spent the next half an hour like looking at songs I'd listened to recently, trying to like sing it into Shazam and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And nothing, and I looked up the lyrics that I'd come up and I was like, no, nothing's coming up. I was like, I think I've come up with this. So that's what I mean, is that it was so like subconscious that I genuinely just didn't even believe I'd done it. So, and then I recorded it in like a demo on like a real quick like voice note thing, and we went to the studio at John's, recorded it in properly, and I remember they were just like, that's it
Mm.
done, that's the chorus done. So yeah, it's so I feel like I changed up like kind of the way. Not all of it was done like that. Like some of it was done in just the regular way where I just kind of sit down and vibe with a song and kind of repeat bits. And but that was fun. It was a fun sort of trial, and I've definitely used that kind of method again.
That's about growth as an artist and a person, isn't it? You know, you're constantly learning new things and finding new ways to do things. But in that situation, you are cutting a cheese toasty and you have this flash. What do you do? I mean, do you immediately reach for your phone? Do you drop the food? Do you sit and let it wait? What's going on?
Oh, the cheese toastie was cold by the end of this. Like it was, I at that point, like I said, I sort of went back a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, surely not. And then I sort of, yeah, I really made an effort to, as soon as I could, just absolutely get it down so I didn't forget it, because I'm a nightmare for that as well. Is that sometimes things are so innate in me that I do them, and then I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. So then Adam will like turn to me and go, "Oh, that's a good one," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't remember what I just did."
Yeah, no, I get
So
that completely. I completely.
yeah, yeah.
I'll be downstairs. I'll make a cup of coffee, and I'll think, okay, a video idea will pop in my head, and I'll be like,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
in a minute, I'll go upstairs and write that down on my whiteboard. And in that time, I'll forget
yeah,
before I get upstairs.
Yeah, that's why I tend to have a notebook out at all points, and I have it on my kitchen work surface or on my desk, and I'm like, it's a really good because I'm so bad for it is just going, no, I'll do that in a minute, and like you said, you walk through a door, it's gone. So it's the
Mm,
same principle. I really was trying to like be like, right, I need to get this down. And also it's a good like way of explain like saying how like you should just record everything you do. Like you should
mm,
always trust your gut and be like, don't do like a take where you're not recording it because you don't know what's going to come out. Just record it. Like the
yeah.
worst that can happen is you just press delete because it's shit. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of that mentality, yeah, helped a lot as well. So
Doing all of that, did you find there were moments where you surprised yourself either by something you wrote or just even as you pushed yourself in different ways?
I think there's a bit on a album track called Idols, which the demo vocal actually ended up making the album cut, which is the only and ever time we've probably will ever and have ever done that because
Wow.
it was so unique for me the way it happened. There was no way I was going to recreate it. And it was a one take scream kind of like like what Dave Grohl does in Monkey Wrench, like the kind of like one last time before, like kind of like that. But I did it in a
Yeah.
fry, like a like kind of thing, which I can't do normally. It's not very natural for me vocally to do. And I don't know what happened that day, but I just did it in one go, absolutely smashed it out, and I've never been able to do it again. And it ended up, I think we blended it with like a like take of stuff, but it was in a weird way, it's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that it kind of made it in there because it's kind of like a nice little like gesture to kind of just again like going back to that innateness of just that was
Mm.
what it was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be anything else. So yeah.
No, no worries or thoughts about replicating that in the future, then perhaps in the live environment.
I mean, I can do it, but it'll be in a different way. So it's like I can scream it, but it's not the same kind of scream that I did on that day.
Very specific, I get it.
So yeah, so it's like again, because there's loads of things I do in the studio sometimes that I think, God, that's going to be hard work to recreate live, and I just find ways around it. There's other ways to do screams to change bits up. I could sing some bits and instead of
Mm.
scream them, and because I'm the only person doing vocals live, so it can be quite tough on me. So sometimes I am just like I have to sing this bit because it's too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was it's just a funny moment when we tried to recreate it and we were like, no, no,
Wow.
it's yeah, it's interesting.
You must have thought, oh, just abandon it then initially, though, right? Like, I mean, as good as it was, or how cool it was, or how interesting it was, there must have been thought, well, look, if this can't be replicated, just chuck it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's always an element of that. Like we've always had a bit of that of especially with like the Scream stuff, like because again, when you record stuff, like it's such a different environment to doing it live. And we've always tried to stay as true to as much as we can to trying to play it live.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, is that, I always say that I'm a singer first and a screamer second. Like,
Mhm.
so that's what I prefer doing. Like, I prefer singing. Screaming is fun, but I like to do it in smaller doses. So when there's songs where there's like big chunks of screaming, like on a record, I'm always like, oh my God. And it's yeah, but it's so easy to be like, oh, let's just not do that. But I'm like, yeah, but that's what sounds good, and we can always make it work. So never had any complaints really. So
That, and listen, who wants in a live environment? Nobody wants the replica of the studio. That already exists. The idea of live
yeah,
is a chance to experiment and potentially as well use bounce off a crowd. So, like, I don't think there's any expectations for things to sound exactly like they did in the studio.
for sure, for sure.
Speaking of the studio, though, how was that overall from a recording perspective? Was it an enjoyable process? Did you run into any particular challenges?
Uh, I mean, I don't like studio. I really
Mm.
don't like it. It's not where I feel comfortable. It's not where I feel the best version of myself, which is why I do get a lot of comments of people being like, "Oh my God, why can she do that scream live and not on record?" And I'm like, because it just doesn't, it's not, again, like we were a band that grew up playing live.
Mm,
Like we were a band that played songs live before we ever even set out to record them. So like for me it's just not where I naturally kind of gravitate to. And I
mm,
know artists that are the opposite. They love working in the studio. I like the creative stuff, as in like I love like writing in the studio. I love like coming up with stuff and doing short bursts. But as soon as it comes to the pressure of like, right, we're recording an album now, I'm like, it's like the red light fever thing, like absolutely hits me like a fucking brick wall. And I just suddenly can't sing or scream or, there was points where like I was hitting whole lines sharp or flat. And I'm
right.
like, and and it's like because it's the tension of like, oh my God, this is the album. This is the album. And there was elements of it that were better than last time. There were elements of it that, we're not as good, but and we're still trying to find our feet in where what we want to do, like going forward
Mm,
studio wise. And it was mentally hard. It was a really tough album to do in general. And I think all of us were in like weird places, like, trying to cope with stuff like in our own ways, but not really, not saying not communicating, but like really finding it hard to understand where everybody each was, which is completely normal, but it was doesn't stop it being hard.
mm,
And it was, when I was sort of like, I can't do this today, it was kind of like, cool, no problem, but you're going to have to do it like before the 2 weeks is up. And then I'm like, holy shit, like, and then I go into meltdown. But again, there were allocations made of like, don't worry, we'll go back. And I went back and I redid some bits that I felt like I could do better afterwards. And that was definitely took the pressure off a little bit. But yeah, but doing an album is hard. Like, I think that especially when you're not a big band that has access to like 4 months in a studio. Like we had
yeah.
2 weeks and it was kind of like it's tough. Like it sounds like a lot of time, but it's not, especially for vocals. Like vocals don't work like I mean, I'm pretty sure George did all his bits in one day, like on bass. Which is incredible even for a bassist is pretty well done, but like it doesn't vocals don't work like
No.
that. They don't you can't switch it on and switch it off. It's I'm feeling good today or I'm feeling shit today. And it's very much, and if my headspace is not good, forget it. And um so it's hard when it's regimented like that, but at the same time there were really good fun moments in it that we got to do, and that I really really enjoyed. So it's again it's always pendulum swings both ways, I think.
I mean, the expectations is always that naturally it's you're gonna have the best time in the studio, but that's not reality. Particularly as you said, when you've got time constraints and so much going on from a physical, mental state as well. The album itself speaks. The album will speak for that, and its authenticity is what's going to matter in the end. So ultimately, you got it, and ultimately, I guess you learned and took stuff from this experience. As you said yourself, maybe I haven't perfected how you want to, how
Yeah.
the studio should go in the future, but you will have learned stuff from this, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like we've already discussed like what's going to happen next time.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? And that
of
was the
course.
same for Ultraviolet. We've improved every single time we've done it, and we've still not got it yet. But it again, it's a lot of it's financial constraints, time
Of
constraints.
course.
Like we can't do, like I said, the things that I would probably make me sound my best because we don't have the capacity to be able to fulfill that. So
Mm.
we've talked about more like John potentially engineering more of the next stuff, which I think would work really nicely. And it's so yeah, it's everything's learning, but we're so open and happy to keep learning. You know what I mean? We're not fixed on one way of doing things, and I think that will
Mm.
be good for us trying to keep evolving.
Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We are out of time. And I want to keep much longer, but I just wanted to ask you kind of what you hope listeners take away from the record in the end.
I've kind of like kept this as like this is definitely something that I've felt is a good message from it is like if we can do this, if we can get over this rickety bridge that we've got over and create something as big as this, you can too. It's we're a testament to if you want to, you can. Don't let society tell you that like you shouldn't do things because it doesn't feel because it's not like the correct thing to do or it doesn't feel right to other people. It's like whatever's right for you, do it because it's like I feel so proud of this thing we've created, and it's really like helped me feel like I'm holding something that I know was super traumatic to get through, but I'm holding something that I'm also super proud of. So I think that if you want to, you can. It's kind of a really good kind of message of, although it's not like what the kind of lyrics are about, I feel like the overall just experience of what's happened kind of not overshadows it, but like it runs in tandem with it as well. So yeah.
I said at the start, one of the things I'm convinced that this album is going to do is resonate with people in a way that none of the releases have to this point. And I think that's a long-term thing as well. That's going to be delightful. I think the initial first reaction within the month is going to be fascinating, but it's 6 months down the line, it's a year down the line that I think that's really going to matter, particularly because at that point, you'll be out and about playing live. The last thing I just want to mention, because you actually briefly dropped it in earlier on. We talked about festivals, of course. Download the Dog 2 stage on the Saturday is where you're at because you can now see that. That is going to be awesome. It's going to be special, right? Have you
Yeah.
even are you even thinking about it? Have you thought about what the set list
Oh
might look
yeah.
like? What you think? Oh yeah,
We've thought, I think not so much well, set list, I think if I'm honest with you, we're now actually at a point which is really good where we can pick and choose a lot more songs of what we want to take out and put in because we're now onto a third record. So I think that we're like, oh, it's great. We can now do all the party tunes at a festival. Because like, if you want to come and see the slower, more like, sort of like building songs, come to a headline show. We're not
yeah.
going to play like, the slower ones at a festival because everyone's just there to have a good time, drink some drinks in the sun, and just have great. But we are also planning on potentially doing some like fun production stuff, and so yeah, it's kind of been setting some bits in motion, which is fun.
Oh, I can't wait. Although you're setting a high bar there by using the word sun when it comes to download. I mean, who knows? We
True,
shall.
the rain.
Hopefully, it will be. But yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. And so is the release of the album, of course. Did you ask to be set free April 10th via Century Media? Charlie, thank you so much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.